It's that time of year where the clocks change. Luckily, daylight savings time just ended, meaning we all get an extra hour of sleep. And even better, moving the clocks backward is easier than moving the clocks forward. But this doesn't mean that it's an easy transition. Twice a year, we subject our bodies to a sort of involuntary jet lag, and this can impact our sleep for a few weeks. And when our sleep is impacted, this affects almost every other aspect of our life as well, including our eating schedule, our work performance, when we feel tired, and our mood. In order to minimize these effects, it's really important we keep our sleep schedule as intact as much as possible. So today I'm going over some daylight savings time sleep tips for how to keep your sleep schedule intact. Hey everyone, my name is Matthew, and welcome to Calm Insomniac, where we're a community of people trying to get a better night's sleep. If you enjoy learning about sleep health, sleep tips, and relaxing classical music, then please subscribe with notifications on. And if you enjoy this video, please give it a like, as it greatly helps out the channel. Let's first explain why we have daylight savings time. Now, this might seem obvious to most of you, but I actually have a small international audience, and not every country observes these time changes. Daylight savings time was created to artificially increase the amount of daylight we get during the late spring, summer, and early autumn. This was important because when most people were farmers, we wanted more daylight so that we had more time to work the farm and harvest crops. And now, even though we are not an agrarian society anymore, we still observe these time changes. So sometime around March, we move our clocks forward 1 hour and we begin daylight savings time. And sometime around November, we move our clocks backward, ending daylight savings time and returning to the normal time. Now let's explain how daylight savings time ending actually affects us. This is only a 1 hour time difference. Daylight savings time ending is the equivalent of traveling west one time zone. So, for example, traveling from New York to Chicago. But if you've ever traveled west one time zone, you know this minimal difference in time can really affect you. In this case, we're experiencing jet lag, though likely a mild case of it. I would argue, though, that daylight savings time, beginning or ending, affects us more than traveling by one time zone. When most people travel, there is a purpose. This could be for business, leisure, visiting family, or a number of other reasons. But when we travel, we usually have set activities scheduled. And even when we're on vacation, these set activity could just be sitting by the beach all day. Regardless of the activities, the point is that it's different from our normal routine. But when daylight savings time begins or ends, we are forced to deal with a time change while maintaining our regular schedule. And this, I believe, is much harder to do. When we travel, our schedule becomes interrupted and we expect that. But when the time changes, we are forced to change our internal schedule while maintaining that regular schedule we're used to. For example, feeling hungry at 11 a.m. instead of noon, or feeling tired at 2 p.m. instead of 3 p.m. can greatly impact our day and our productivity. The time it says on the clock and our biological clock are temporarily fighting for control, and this leaves us vulnerable. So let's go over some simple tips for managing this time change. Just remember that this video is about daylight savings time ending when we move the clocks backward, and moving the clocks backward is generally easier than moving the clocks forward. Let's start with our first tip, which is to keep your sleep schedule, and this is arguably the most important thing to do. We have to maintain our regular sleep schedule, and this means going to bed and waking up at the same time as normal. This means if you normally go to bed at 10 p.m., then you have to still go to bed at 10 p.m. What happens is when daylight savings time ends, 9 p.m. feels like 10 p.m., and this is where most people make a mistake. The mistake is made when they feel tired at 9 p.m. and decide to actually go to bed. But doing this only makes it harder to adjust to the new time change. So you need to force yourself to try to stay up that extra hour and keep your sleep schedule at the same time, even though your body believes that everything is an hour later than it really is. Likewise, try to wake up at your normal time, and this is the harder part of moving the clocks backward. If you normally wake up at 7 a.m., you might naturally wake up at 6 a.m. And while this is hard to control, just know that your body will adjust to the time change within about 2 weeks, and soon you will be adjusted and waking up at your normal time. Our next tip is to keep our eating schedule. We've discussed many times before how our eating and sleeping schedules are closely connected, and when the time changes, it's just as important that we keep our eating schedule as we do our sleeping schedule. When we move the clocks backward, we feel hungry sooner, and this can be a huge distraction. This often leads people to eat earlier in the day than they're used to, which then leads to snacking later at night and closer to bed. And snacking too close to bed can impact the quality of our sleep. In the first few days after the time change, it is especially important that we eat a well-balanced diet. Aside from the benefits of just generally eating healthier, if we eat healthier and well-balanced, we are more likely to feel satiated throughout the day and right before we go to sleep. But what should you do if you feel hungry an hour earlier than you're actually supposed to eat? Well, you might try eating some healthier snacks earlier in the day that have a slightly higher protein and fat content, such as nuts. And the other option is just to power through the temporary hunger, and if you're able to do that, then go right ahead. Our next tip is to avoid extra caffeine. One of the worst parts about moving the clocks backward is waking up earlier than we intend to, and this causes a lot of people to consume extra caffeine because they feel tired earlier in the day. But unsurprisingly, this is a bad idea. Consuming extra caffeine increases your chance of affecting the next night's sleep, and this can keep you up at night or prevent you from achieving quality sleep. And this can get you stuck in the coffee cycle, where you constantly need coffee to stay awake, and it's the coffee that's also preventing you from falling asleep. I will mention one benefit of caffeine though, and that is it's an appetite suppressant. Now again, don't consume any extra caffeine. But if you have a cup of coffee in the morning, this can prevent you from feeling hungry for longer, and this in turn can help keep you on your regular eating schedule. But I'll say it one more time, do not consume any extra caffeine. Our next tip is to expose ourselves to light. Since we often wake up earlier than we intend to when we move the clocks backward, we need to expose ourselves to light first thing in the morning, and this is very important. When we wake up, we need to see light. This signals to our brain that it's daytime and that we should be awake. One of the downsides of these time changes is the subtle interruption to our circadian rhythm. Luckily, moving the clocks backward means it's light out earlier in the morning than we're used to, often around 6:30 a.m., and this is a good thing in case we wake up earlier than we intend to and we can automatically see light outside of our window. But throughout the morning and early afternoon, be sure to expose yourself to sunlight. Now, it doesn't have to be sunlight, but natural light does work best. And don't forget in the evening to begin limiting your exposure to light, just as you should always be doing. And our final tip is to exercise. Right after the time changes, one of the hardest things is staying awake in the late morning and early afternoon. And if you woke up an hour earlier than you intended to, this is when the fatigue really hits you. Instead of reaching for caffeine, try doing some light exercise. Possibly the best choice is to go outside and take a walk. This not only wakes you up and gets your blood flowing, but it's a good chance to expose yourself to light and get some fresh air. And doing some more vigorous exercise early in the morning before work or school could be a good idea. Of course, this is a good idea anytime, but when the time changes, we might need that boost of energy. Just be careful to not do vigorous exercise too close to your bedtime, because this can keep you up and prevent you from achieving quality sleep. But if you choose to do a walk, this shouldn't affect your sleep even if you do take an evening stroll. Alright, those are some simple tips for how to keep your sleep schedule intact when daylight savings time ends. And you probably noticed that these are just regular sleep tips, and that's by design. We don't want to do anything to upset our sleep schedule more than it already has been by the time change. We need to be very diligent about just maintaining our schedule, and even though it has been temporarily disturbed, it will return to normal within about 2 weeks. And implementing these tips will hopefully make the transition just a little bit easier. Let me know in the comments, what is the worst side effect you experience from daylight savings time ending, and how do you combat it? Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you learned something. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow me on Facebook and Pinterest, check out my website, and join my email list. All of those links are down below. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn more sleep tips, then definitely check out this playlist right over here. And if you missed my last video where I explain if you should read Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker, then check out this video down over here. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.